So Baloney's about to turn 17. She still plays like a kitten. I'm about to turn 40. I still play like a kitten. And I guess I'll talk a little about how we try to stay young, mentally and physically, which are both super, super important. People often tell me I look really young for my age, but my knees hurt and my back hurts and I get tired easily and I can't drink as much at all. Get drunk more easily, I gotta sleep in. And it's hard to concentrate. It's hard to learn new subjects when you're older. It's hard to reorganize the old neurons. When you're little, things just soak right in. So, but I try really, really hard to expand my mind and exercise my body and eat right and all that good stuff. So I'll talk about it kind of step by step. See if maybe some of the things I do and some of the things I do for Baloney kind of can help you. To keep my brain in gear, I read a lot of books, as you can see. I personally like to read about scientific topics. I read a lot of books about physics and philosophy. I even have a book called Physics and Philosophy. I like to read books that I can barely understand, that I'm just on the verge of understanding. One good example is Brian Greene's Elegant Universe, about string theory. The first half of the book I understood pretty well because I had already read a lot of books about special relativity and other topics he was covering. And then when he really gets into the hairy string theory stuff, it's very abstract. I had to get into some kind of weird trance to understand it. And then I would finally kind of grasp something, either when I was about half asleep or in a trance-like state. I'd grasp one of the concepts, totally wrap my mind around it and absorb it, and then the next day not really understand it again and then have to kind of reread. And just, books that are just on the edge of really being easy to read. I love to go to school. I got my undergraduate at Berklee College of Music, and then about 8 or 9 years later I got my graduate degree in music technology from New York University. And at that time I finally learned a little bit about electronics, which was a completely new topic. It's a good example of how a very new subject can be hard for an adult to really absorb. I had been working with stuff that was electronic for a really, really long time and then realized I don't even really know how this stuff works. Any of the guts inside my synths I didn't really understand. I didn't even understand really what watts were, or electrons, or anything like that. So I took a kind of an electronics 101, and it was very, very difficult. I tried really hard to absorb it. I kept rereading my notes, rereading the book, thinking and thinking for long periods of time in quiet solitude. And someone suggested I go to Radio Shack and get a book there that really explained it in baby terms. And guess what? I finally understood it. One day I was like, poof, wow, I understand now. Electricity just kind of goes wherever it can go. It doesn't necessarily follow traffic lights. It was such a good feeling. Although, in a way, it was also headache-inducing. Sometimes, this happens to me with math, too. I studied chaos theory. I was doing something that I called chaos melody theory for my master's thesis. So I really had to kind of delve into a little bit of mathematics. It's mostly just algebra that's a feedback loop. But when I started having to use complex numbers, it got a little confusing. And I noticed that whenever I finally really understood it, wrapped my mind around it, then I'd get this headache. And the same thing kind of happened with electronics. I'd finally be grasping an idea and get that feeling of relief. Something would get released and I'd get a headache. Like something wanted to keep me from learning. But, fought through that whole thing and did pretty well. So yeah, you got to keep your brain going. And that also has to do with social interaction. That's one thing I probably need to improve a little bit. I tend to want to stay home, by myself and do weird work and research and stuff. But I always have that need for social interaction that pops up every now and then. At least once a week, I'll be like, oh my God, I got to get out of here, drink a beer with some friends. Let's see. So what else? So there's your brain. You got to keep in gear. You got to keep your body in gear. I just made some food. I hate to cook. I don't like to go to the grocery store. I don't like to cook. I like to clean the kitchen, which is kind of weird, but that doesn't really help put dinner on the table. So I never make anything that takes longer than about 5 minutes. So I made me here a little meal that took 1.5 minutes. Threw a black bean veggie burger in the microwave. Takes a minute. And by the time that was done, I had a salad here with spinach and this purple cabbage. Got to try to eat food that's different colors. And the more vibrant the colors, I think the better it is for you. And I put apples on it, and a little bit of cheese, and some raspberry vinaigrette. I really like applesauce. Took me 0 seconds to prepare this. And it's very tasty and yummy. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of eating. I kind of eat to relieve the hunger. Except if I'm at a restaurant, like an Indian restaurant or something, then I get overly excited about eating the tasty, delicate food. And I eat too much. So I don't stress if I end up eating stuff that's kind of bad, I don't stress it. Stress, I think, is the #1 way to get older. As far as your innards and your brain deteriorating as well. So, for instance, last night after the Atheist meeting, we all went out for dinner. And Baloney just came in. And we ended up eating spaghetti and stuff kind of late at night. Had cheese bread. So a couple of us were stressing, a little like, oh God, I don't really think I should be eating this greasy cheese bread and, well, 10 o'clock at night. But hey, Baloney likes applesauce too. But the deal is, don't stress it. Just eat it. Don't stress it. In fact, I had a beer to relieve the stress over eating cheese bread. Eat it, Baloney. Eat it. There you go, honey. Applesauce. Oh well, she usually likes applesauce. She wants something on the plate. I don't necessarily like to eat apples on their own. It's not that fun. But I put them on everything. I put them on my spinach salad. I put them on, like, you know, little bits like this. I make fruit salad with yogurt and chop up apples in there. If I make oatmeal, I put apples in there. What else? If I eat granola in the morning a lot, chop up apples and put them in there. So, there's lots of ways to eat them. They keep the doctors away. Now, spinach. I was so happy when I discovered that you could actually buy fresh spinach and cook it in like a minute. And it's weird. You put like a giant bag of spinach in a bowl and it shrinks all up into like one serving. So in a sense, it's maybe not as good since it's cooked, but you can eat like a ton of spinach like in one serving. Makes me feel like eating a spinach salad isn't that big of a deal because it's like hardly any spinach. Like if I cooked this spinach that I'm eating right now in this salad, it would end up being like really small serving. But spinach is good for salads. It's good for, like I said, cooking for a side dish. It's good like in place of lettuce to put on your sandwich. Sure, it's definitely better for you than iceberg lettuce. Why would you put iceberg lettuce on a sandwich other than to make it crunchy? But I use spinach on my sandwiches.